Hi, all you lovely creative people. This is June from Welcome with Shlaine Designs, and today I am going to show you, or I'm going to give you a step-by-step on how I made this shabby chic turkey out of paper clay, some Venise trim, half of the dollar store pumpkin, and or you can use a styrofoam ball. I did this project on a live stream. As a matter of fact, on two live streams, so it took 4 hours and it still wasn't done. The project really doesn't take that long, but with the live stream, you're chatting, you're talking, and you're also trying to figure out what you're doing. So in this video, I'm giving you a step-by-step of how you can do this. And if you're really interested, you can go back to my live stream if there's something that you don't know or understand on how I did. I'll link the two live streams below so you can see how I actually did it. But I think with a little bit of imagination, and I know that you're all crafty, you can make this yourself so you can have a pretty decoration for Thanksgiving using some supplies that you probably already have in your house. I will be, like I say in the video, I will be linking the mold and some of the other products that I used. But let's get started and have fun. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing you have to do is you have to take one of these Dollar Tree pumpkins and cut them apart. Now the Dollar Tree pumpkins have a seam, and what I used my X-Acto blade and I gently went over the seam. I didn't try to cut it all through the first time, um, although it cuts really easily, and on this one some of the seam wasn't even together, so that made it really simple. Now if you don't have Dollar Tree pumpkins, you can go out and buy a styrofoam ball at a craft store and slice it in half to have half a round. That's all you really need. This was hollow inside, so I wanted to have some more weight on this piece so it wouldn't be flimsy. So I took cat litter. I have this clay cat litter. It's not scented. It's just the most basic, cheapest cat litter that you can buy in the store. And I put it in here and I put it in here and then I put it in a bowl, mixed it with Mod Podge and packed it in. The reason why I put it in here first was to measure out how much cat litter I would need. I mixed it with Mod Podge in the bowl and then, like I said, I packed it in as best I could, waited a day or two for that to dry. So now you have your half of a pumpkin or your styrofoam ball. I took Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint in the color sheepskin and I put a couple of coats over this orange color because this is very bright, and even though you're going to be putting ribbon trim over it, there's holes in the ribbon trim and I didn't want to try to paint in there enough to get it. I didn't want to see this orange color. So by just putting a couple of coats on this, you eliminate that problem. Okay, and the next thing I did was I took my trim. Now this is not the same trim. I don't have any more of the trim that I used on here, but I am going to try to find a link for this particular ribbon trim. This is also called Venise lace. It's I find mine on Etsy, and I'll try to link the shop that I bought that there, but you can use anything that you want. I used Mod Podge on this. Now you can use Stiffy, you could use fabric tack. I had Mod Podge handy, so I decided to make a total mess by putting Mod Podge on the pumpkin, putting Mod Podge on this. Mod Podge got on my hands, the desk, all over. I would suggest doing this on wax paper and gluing it down. Putting more Mod Podge on it, and then for the second row I tried to put the ribbon down off-centered so that it looked like this when I was putting it down. So each layer these points weren't lined up. I thought it gave it more texture and feeling like that. Now, if you watch the live video, you'll know that I didn't put as many of these on because, again, when you're doing something live, it's really hard to concentrate. So after all of this dried, I then went back and put in 2 more rows just to give it more of a uniformed ribbon shape. Okay. Added a lot of Mod Podge to it. When that dried, I put another coat of the chalk paint on it. I wanted these pieces to be as stiff as possible so that they would stay up, because you're bending it from flat to up just to give it more texture. Okay, you're done with this. You put this on the side to dry. That took about a day or two to dry. But in the meantime, while that is drying, you can get some more pieces done. Let me get the ribbon off here and the Mod Podge. Okay, here comes the paper clay. This whole procedure with the paper clay would be much better to be done on a silicone mat or parchment paper. That way the paper clay does not stick to your surface as it's drying. I did not use it, and when I was trying to lift this up in one piece, I'm doing the back first, I was getting very nervous. Things were shifting around. So on the silicone mat, it won't stick as much. So I made 3 pieces of this and 3 pieces of that. Had them on the side. Now, a little suggestion is to, after you make them, maybe wait like an hour or so. I was live, couldn't wait. Just to get them a little bit less soft. You don't want to wait much longer than an hour or so. You don't want to wait overnight, because then they might get too stiff and then they might not bend and they'll break. So just about an hour, just because I didn't, when I was trying to do this, the one thing that I was afraid of was I was going to ruin or smudge all of this beautiful detail that's in the mold. Okay, so for your first 2 pieces that you take out, you line them up for your center. And you put them together and you try to pay as much attention to your negative space as possible, that it's even. It's never going to be exactly even, but you do your best to make sure that it's pretty much the same on both sides. Then with your second 2 pieces that you made, you bring them in towards the center at an angle, and you're overlapping the bottom of the first pieces that you put. So you could sort of smudge them together, smush them. I know smush, I don't know if it's a word, but you can smush them together. And that's why using the 2-part epoxy resins would be really hard with this, because you can't smush them. Once they come out of the mold, they're hard. And then for the third piece, this bottom piece, I tried to line it up so that it was almost parallel with the floor when it was held this way, but a little bit up. You can see that parts of it were I cut off the bottom of it here when they were all together. So just so it was a little bit up, and it was touching the other piece that I put, the second piece I put. There's some overlapping here, if you can see. And then once you have that, you smush it together. You try to cut it at all of them, because there's some left over on the bottom. You cut it off onto a straight edge here, and you let that dry. Now that has to dry for at least 3 days. And after about a day and a half, I wanted to flip it, because I noticed that the top was drying, but it still felt wet to me. It was because the bottom wasn't getting any air, because it was flat on the board. So I had to flip them, and once I flipped them, I was so happy I flipped them without moving them too much, because they still move around a little bit. I let it dry on the bottom, but I had to watch it, because then it was starting to curl. So even though you're not really doing anything for 3 or 4 days, while it's drying, you still have to watch it and make sure that it's drying the way you want it to. But once this stuff dries, it's solid. You know, I wouldn't go out of my way and actually try to break this, but it is not going to break just because I did this to it. Okay, so Once this part is dry, you then attach it with glue. I use tacky glue. Put tacky glue on this, left it down, put it, and then put the pumpkin or the turkey body on it and left it like that and let it dry. Now that I have the body and the back, I wanted to do the front. So I took out my mold again and I made one of each of these pieces, the little pieces on the mold, and I took some tacky glue again and I glued them together to create this headpiece right here. Left that to dry. Then I took another, you're going to have to make 2 more of this and 2 more of that, but you're going to be taking some of it off, but just make 2 more of each. I took these 2 and, oh, let me do this because the last time I talked about this, I didn't say it. Let me get the pumpkin so I can show you. I'm using this side, the curved inside of the pumpkin. I made a little ball out of the paper clay, probably about this big, and I glued it right onto here. Even though it was wet, I just put some tacky glue, glued it on, put more tacky glue over this, tacky glue all over here. And then I took these 2 pieces, I glued them together here, in this area right here, which is right around here. And then I took this bottom pieces of the mold and fanned them out on either side. And that's where that little ball that's under there helps create, so that the gap, I think you could see a little piece of the ball right there. It helps with the gap. Okay, so they're down. These 2 pieces are together and you left the top pieces open so that you can fit this little head, the little head pieces that are drying. Then I asked everybody on the live stream, did they want wings? They said yes. So now you're getting to your final 2 pieces that you have to mold. And I really didn't do a full mold. I did up to here. You can do more, you can do less. You don't even have to use this mold. If you have a different mold, you can use that mold. And then I put them here and here. And I curved them and try to flip them out and down a little bit. I think I took off, yeah, I took off these little curls on these pieces because it was getting too much. There was too much curls and everything else like that. So then I put them here and I laid them out on my drying mat. So you see there is a space between on both of the wings against the body, and this part right here was flipped down so it would lay flat on the table. As this was drying, now I did not put the head on. I left the head on the side to dry. I lined this up with, I used this and another glue bottle, and I lined it up as much as I could to keep this part, I'm sorry, I'm getting too much in the camera, this part straight. And this again takes, this might even be longer because there was more depth in here with all of the paper clay. So this took about 4 days to really dry. About day 3 was when I felt it was sturdy enough and this piece, this head piece, was dry enough where I could add more glue to the inside of these little curves, which is this piece here and this piece here. And I put some glue and I popped this in and I made sure that I held it, or, you know, again, propped it up with my glue bottles so that it would hold it relatively straight in there. Now, sometimes when you're using the paper clay, there's a little gap line, and I didn't like that. So I mixed up some of this paper clay with some glue, made it like a paste, and just filled it in and cleaned it up that way. And, you know, rubbed it in just to make it look like there wasn't any openings in between the pieces. I don't mind having a seam, but I'd rather it be a seam that goes out than a seam that goes in. Once this whole thing dried, I then took some more chalk paint, painted everything. I think I must have painted this 2 or 3 times on the ribbon, on the back, here, on the sides, all over the place. And let that dry. Now, I tried using different waxes on it. I tried using the Art Alchemy, the bronze, I think it's the Bronze Age, and I think I also used the gold one on all of the, the upper parts of the mold, and it just didn't look right to me. I didn't like the way it looked. Oh, I'm sorry, but no, I think I did it after. Okay. So I took this one. This is Vintage Silk, and it's a white gold color. Very pretty, a pearlized gold, silver. I don't know how exactly to describe it. And just took my finger and, dipped it in and put it all over to highlight all of the top pieces of the molds. Then what I did, even with this on, I took some raw umber and burnt sienna, and I mixed it together with a ton of water, a lot of water. And I painted it on and I took it off because I wanted to antique it. I didn't want it just this pure color. It just looked too white to me, even though this is an off-white color. Um, Maybe you can see the comparison to the Mod Podge. It is an off-white color, but it just looked too white to me anyway. So I antiqued it, and it also brought out a lot of the details. I put the paint on, I wiped it off, and I tried to make sure that I got in all the holes so that that would add more depth to it. And then anywhere else that I wanted to go, I put more of the wax on. I then went back with a little paintbrush wherever it wasn't brown or antiqued enough, and I wanted to add a little bit more back here and stuff. I just added a little bit more. Finally, and this is totally up to you if you want to do this, I use Tulip Glitter Dimension Fabric Paint in gold. I like this stuff because it's not, I put it on my finger and I just rub it wherever I want some glitter. It's not very concentrated, so it just gives it little sparkles here and there. And I really like using this. I know it's for fabric, but it works on this type of a project very well. And then finally, when all the painting was done and all of the highlighting and staining was done, I put a piece of felt, I glued a piece of felt with some fabric tack, and I glued it down, and then I cut around it. Now, because the cat litter, I didn't smooth it enough on the bottom. It's a little ribbly, but it's going to protect people's furniture, which is really all that matters. It will protect it so it won't scratch it. And it's done. All told, like I said, between, I guess, maybe this project was 2 hours, 3 hours, and the rest of it was dry time. The most time was spent was making the paper clay molds, and that's sort of fun. I'm going to link this mold down below. I will try to find a link for the ribbon and put that in also. And that's about it. So with a mold, some paper clay, and either half a styrofoam ball. And if you get a styrofoam ball and you cut it in half, you can also make 2 pumpkins just like I can. If you want to have one on each side of your mantle, or if or not, whatever. And this is, a pretty kid-friendly activity too, if you don't mind them making glue messes all over the place, or they can help paint or something to that effect. But all in all, I think this is a really cute project for Thanksgiving, and it's something that brings up making a turkey a little bit better, more stylish, I think, because a lot of times I would see people just taking a turkey and putting feathers and stuff like that. But this brings it more like a shabby chic little decoration. Or you can go bronze and black and make it a little bit more metallic or gothic. So I hope you have fun with this. I hope you try it. And until I see you again, have fun creating beauty.